as far as zoning? I'm sure that, we got one statute, we could do another one, but,
Vaden checked on that, and I think the only thing we need would be the town of Chatham's approval, so zoning is not an
Okay.
issue.
Well,
Mr.
this is really more Emily's bailiwick, but I think you would have to get it rezoned or get a waiver or something they call it,
Okay.
but I'm sure that probably would not be reasonably withheld, but.
I guess because I've been on the planning commission, we've seen different things like this. That's the reason I'm asking about zoning. Okay, and there, is it gonna be like a 501c3 set up to donate to this, or is
Yes,
there
sir.
not?
There will be, yes, sir.
Okay. That's,
Yeah, it'll be totally funded and supported by donations from volunteers,
Okay.
countywide.
Eddie, you can jump in anytime you want to. I mean, you're on this committee too. It's time to speak.
Well, I'm glad we're getting something to recognize our volunteers. I think the sheriff's memorial there, that's very nice.
Well, ironically with that, and the death of Frankie Betterton is what prompted that movement, but I had the honor, the bittersweet honor of doing the investigation, and one death led to another, to another, to another, and lo and behold, this past week I received information on one that we didn't know about. So pretty much the same thing with the fire and rescue community is the best we could tell you, there's only been 2 that have died in the line of duty by definition.
Okay.
So by, I guess, being respectful of the memorial itself, that's why the paver side is so important to honor those that have served. Right. Because when you start putting somebody's name next to somebody that died in the line of duty, that's just not fair to either one of them.
Right.
So I would just ask our committee, if you would see fit, to send us to the board that you agree that we can go ahead and move forward and work out the dynamics as far as the placement, and that would be the location.
Yeah, I think as long as the town's good with it, I think it's a great location.
Mr. Hunt, do I need to ask for a resolution providing the town of Chatham is in support, or?
I just think you need a motion, the full board needs to endorse a motion that lets staff start
Give them marching orders.
investigating, the next steps in this and bring it back to this committee, okay? So we have a spot on the work session that talks about recommendations for committees. You can briefly break that up during there, and then we can, at the business meeting tonight, there's a section called Matters from the Work Session. You can get your motion there.
Okay. I got another question. And I think I know the answer to it, but I'm going to ask it. Just like the police memorial, they will, the qualifications basically is dying in the line of duty. Is that correct?
Well, it's 2 criteria: that you're killed in the line of duty. Your death is as a result of line of duty.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a difference there. Being killed versus something happening.
Well, you can suffer something and then on down the road die from it.
Terry Barker would be a great example, and maybe I shouldn't use the word great, but he had retrieved some surveillance equipment. He was en route back with a trooper when he suffered a massive heart attack as a result of exertion through the process of recovering that equipment. And so he was qualified as a line of duty death. So that would be the best example I could give you. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions from board members? Committee members? What about board members? Ms. Tucker? Ms. Dolly?
Oh, no, sir, I'm fine.
Yes, sir.
Just clarification again on location. Where is it going to be located?
It will be right on Main Street, which is good. And it's across from a public safety building. And there's a nice area right there. If you're standing at public safety looking over toward the, what do you call that? The Victory Academy? Okay. Which is our property, but the school board has they manage that. And if you stand there looking toward that building, it's to the right. So it's not directly in front of that building. It's off to the right in a nice location, adjacent to the gravel parking lot. Yeah. Yes, sir. Mr. Whittle?
Oh, sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
And just for everybody's edification, Mr. Ingram is correct. It's where the old armory is. The schools lease the building called the Victory Academy now. But in the lease, we reserve the driveway on the right and the flat area to the side and behind it for our own purposes. And so I think that's where it's contemplating to go over there.
Yes, sir, that's it. Just to be clear, so do I need a motion from these guys?
Yes.
All right,
So the motion would be just to identify this as the site for the future Fire and Rescue Memorial and authorize county staff to begin investigating next steps to make this happen.
that sounds good. All right, let that be my motion, if that's okay. What about a second?
I'll make
said
that
that-
as a motion, you're chairman.
Absolutely.
And I'll second it.
Good. All right, gentlemen, any other discussion, comments? All right, cast your vote. Okay, that passed. Thank you so much. This next topic here, it's listed litter discussion, but it's a little bit more to it than just that. And, you know, the old saying, we're all tired of kicking the can down the road. Well, let's call this, we're tired of kicking the trash can down the road. When I was chairman in '22, I brought this up and it sort of died on arrival. But, you know, I think now's a prime time that we seriously look at hiring 2 part-time people to manage this program, which would fall under maintenance, which is basically Tom Worley's department. And whereas it was before, it fell under the sheriff's office. And we bought a van, we bought a trailer, we bought lawnmowers and weed eaters, a whole 9 yards, and it just didn't work. This is a little different because this is, we've got to work with the sheriff's office, but it's not something that we're dropping on them. By hiring 2 part-time people, we can do so without paying benefits. And if they worked 8-hour week, you're looking at right at $31,200 a year. And I don't think there's a single one of us that don't get hit on a regular basis about the trash. And it's like morality and cleanliness. You can't regulate it. Even though there's laws on the books that prohibit people from littering, you know as well as I do, people are going to do it. And I live out 58 West, and it's plumb embarrassing when I come out of the city of Danville into Pittsylvania County on 58 West, and the grass is 2 to 3 feet high, and there's trash everywhere. They hire, the city hires Ricky Lux Company, and they pick up, well, they cut grass, and folks from the city farm pick up the trash. And they do a great job. So what I'm proposing is that we look at this and entertain the idea of having 2 part-time people that would manage this program. And I know you wonder where do the workers come from. Well, these are people that, and I wouldn't forsake volunteers, but these are people that's been through the court system that has been tried and convicted. And my suggestion, and I met with Judge Moreau 2 years ago, and she was very much in favor of this, is sometimes the court has other options. They can look toward more community service, and that's what I'm talking about. Nobody in this program would be a threat, no violent offenders. The ones that are in jail could be released at about 7 o'clock in the morning with a bag lunch. A supervisor with a pickup truck will pick them up, take them out, and take care of business, pick up trash where it needs to be picked up. And that's just the basic idea, and it would expand from that point on. My suggestion would be to focus on our primary highways as well as problem areas. And, you know, when you talk about inmates working off fines and costs and things like that, it's nothing that we can do about that. We wouldn't want somebody working that needs to be, you know, paying child support or something like that. I'm talking about people that could be allowed to enter into this program to basically help us by way of community service. We would have to work with the courts to make sure that they would be willing to work with us on that. But I can simply tell you that the couple of judges I've talked to, they very much would be in favor of that. You know, in the past, this program was dumped on the sheriff's office. They had to have an armed guard to go out with the inmates, if you will, and it just simply didn't work. So this concept is different. I've talked with 3 additional localities near us, and it works fabulous. There's no risk factor involved. And if you had somebody in jail that says, look, I'm tired of sitting in here, doing nothing, I'd like to get out, get some fresh air and pick up some trash. If that person decided that they would just take off, well, that's up to them. You can't stop that. But from an inmate side, and I've had so many tell me this, I would rather be out doing something productive than sitting locked up in this cell. And then on a citizen side, we get fussed at because we have people in this jail that ought to be out working and doing something productive. And so this is finally a way to move toward that, get something done. There's a locality not far from here that has one, if not two, inmates that go out to their pet center every single day and clean up stuff. And, we hiring people going and coming to do that. So that's another true benefit. And talking about evolving this program from litter control, which is so important. You think about how our highways look to our citizens, but also think about potential economic development folks. When they come to the city by way of the airport, and they ride out to the mega park, and then they get on a van and they come out to, let's say, Chatham High or Votech. Can you imagine what they look at when they drive up 29? It's such a bad reflection on our county. And I'm appealing to you guys is let's work together and do something to get our highways cleaned up and do what we can to stop this mess. Talk about evolving. I'm not sure what we're paying by way of maintenance, but other localities also use these people a couple of times a week to go around the courthouse as well as county facilities and pick up trash and do whatever's needed by way of maintenance, whether it's mop floors, sweep, whatever. And as it stands right now, we're at the mercy of the correctional center in Halifax County. Every now and then we get lucky and they'll send the inmates out to us. The state does contract litter pickup about twice a year. We might get lucky to have those folks, and last time I checked, they were out of Virginia Beach. But there's nothing in place, and it comes back to us. It's really dropped on our lap. And so that is what I want to share with you. And I would like to entertain a motion that we let staff look at the possibility, if we can afford it, of hiring a couple of part-time people to manage this program. And I do have one person that I talked to in another locality that said, if y'all start it, I'll manage it for you. It may not be proper to say, but that's the truth. Anyway, there it is, gentlemen. What do you think?
Mr. Chairman, VDOT, have you talked to Jay Craddock with this?
I've talked to Jay and Chris Scarce, who is my VDOT rep.
Okay.
And they'll tell you the same thing. Stuart got lucky this year, but in years gone by, it was the same thing. They don't cut grass like they used to, and they don't have staff to pick up. They don't cut the grass. They don't have staff to cut the grass or pick up trash. So that's why the state contracts this company out of Virginia Beach to pick up trash maybe twice a year. And they're restricted to the main thoroughfares, 29, 58, 40, et cetera. In contrast to us managing this program ourselves, when we have problem spots, just like we did up in Axon, that day's agenda would be go up and clean it up. And yeah, putting out cameras, that came up, and that's a good idea, but, cameras surely a hit and miss kind of thing. But enforcement, you have to be at the right place at the right time. I often said in my days of policing, there's a couple of things that you were going to either go to jail or get a ticket for, and that's drunk driving and littering. No mercy, Ken. So anyway, anything else, Mr. Dudley?
I wonder if we can look at getting communities involved.
I'm glad you asked that question.
The reason I brought that up is the town of Hurt actually has a cleanup day every year, and we get together, send out emails, and we have had in upwards of 80 folks show up. And with that many folks in one area, you can clean it up in an hour, 2 hours, and I would like to see local towns and communities get involved. I know some thought is if I didn't throw it out, I don't have to pick it up, but at the same time, it looks ugly. I know Jay Craddock up the Grit Road and down by Riverside, just past Riverside Minute Market, going up what's called Jaybird Hill in Hurt. they actually contracted some workers to do that, and they cleaned it all the way down to Renan Straight Stone. I'm just wondering if we could actually get more community involvement there. And the question would be, do we have the appetite to talk to Kim about, have you got the money? That's the question with the budget right now. So that's where I'm at.
Years ago, the state came up with a pretty good idea back when we had volunteers called the Adopt a Highway program, and it died. I know there's a few organizations, individuals that do maintain that respective part of the highway, but it's like any other organization where you depend on volunteers. It's dead pretty much. So, but yeah, that's why I didn't want to slam that door completely. But I've looked at this thing for years, and the only way that we can have an effective program would be to have paid staff to manage that. And like I said, on a part-time basis where you don't have to pay any benefits, it's a good possibility, and we could, put it on a trial basis for a year, and if it don't work out, I mean, we haven't lost anything, but I just stand amazed at the amount of trash that people continue to throw out on our highways.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I live in Ringgold, right there at the industrial park, right there where Tyson is. And before I got on this board, I'd turn off of 58, leave the city property into county property, and it's rather embarrassing, the amount of trash in that area, and it's an industrial park. And, when the governors go come in, we send somebody out to clean it up. But right now, if you ride out there, it's a mess. In front of Axor, I looked the other day, I said, I would get out here and pick it up if I physically was able, but it is a mess. And if we had a crew that I could pick the phone up and call Mr. Terrell and say, hey, can you get these guys to come out? This is looking horrible.
Well,
if we can do it, I think it would be great,
we could do it.
financially.
Through the years, I've heard every reason why not. I'm not looking for that anymore. Like I
That's
said, instead of kicking the trash can down the road,
Yeah,
we need to do something. And with the minimal cost, we had a budget meeting not long ago, and in that was 3 studies to the tune of $490,000. I'm not saying
And you're talking $30-some thousand.
$31,200
That's
for 1 year.
That's not much to pay to get our county looking better.
And I did talk to Tom Whirley, and by way of how would this fit in the chain here in the county, it would pretty much come under his supervision, but it really, why it's successful in other localities is that they have a supervisor, our paid employee, to manage this program. Just like anything else, if they didn't do it, we'd get rid of them.
Could I make one comment, Mr. Ingram? The county, I do get a lot of complaints from each of you and from citizens about the trash. And I've driven around and seen the litter, and it is a problem. And it's a disincentive to economic development when an executive brings their family here and sees the trash and thinks, is this a community I want to bring my business? So it is a problem. And as you recall, first couple of months I was here, I started a litter committee and met with VDOT and the sheriff. There's some complexity to bringing inmates onto the street. There are some things you have to be worked through. So I like your idea. I would just suggest that the person hired can't really be a cleanup person, would have to be more of a coordinator to coordinate with VDOT and the inmates, the volunteers. And by the way, Adopt a Highway isn't dead. Any civic agency can adopt a highway. And that's probably the best way to get someone take accountability for a road. So the person you have in mind can't really just be has to have more than ability to go out and pick up trash, has to be a coordinator of all these various components that do the work. Now, the fundamental reason there is a trash problem on the major arterial roads, in my opinion, is that VDOT's mission is traffic safety. It's not road beautification. And so if I ever get the ear of the governor, I'm going to say, Governor, can you change the mission of VDOT to broaden it from traffic safety? So that's the fundamental problem. That puts it on us, and I just react to your complaints, and then I go out and try to clean it up. And so I'm just suggesting that your idea, I think, is timely, but the person would need to do more than just pick up trash, would need to be a coordinator of VDOT, the sheriff, the inmate, volunteers, and so forth.
Yeah, if you went over and saw Sheriff Taylor and said, look, we want to reactivate this, I know what his response is going to be. And that's why this concept is entirely different. These two part-time employees would in fact be the supervisors that would in fact coordinate this program. In fact, they would know who they would have on that given day to work. They would coordinate with the jail as far as the release time. What other localities do is they pack them a bag lunch. And again, these are nonviolent offenders. There's so many people that walk out of this courthouse with fines and costs that could be given community service if we were more aggressive in asking the courts for that. And I'm telling you, out of 2 judges I've talked to, they would surely work with us on that. And I will also add that being on RIFA, out of our budget, we make sure that the roads are clean over toward the mega park for obvious reasons. But again, coming up 29, 58, 40, 832, these are our main primary roads. These back secondary roads, Mount Cross Road would be another example. It's not considered a major thoroughfare, but the others are. But again, I just think for the cost that we're looking at with the benefit, and I think it'd be well worth it. So I would look for a motion that we entertain hiring 2 part-time people to facilitate this program.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Tucker.
quick question.
Yes, sir.
I like the concept. However, I'd like to see the feasibility study done, one, and then, logistically, you got to figure out how you're going to implement it, who's going to be in charge, and then I know we don't want to necessarily pay them benefits, but if they're going to be out there picking up litter on the side of the road, we have to, I guess, insure them to some degree. Otherwise, we have a lot of liability out there. So those are things that you have to consider also.
Yeah, other localities, they have them sign a waiver. One pays them $4 a day. 2 of them goes into their account at the jail. The other $2 goes to the fines and cost of court, whatever they're trying to pay off. So, there's a lot of folks that walk out of the courthouse that have a debt to pay, if you will, but not necessarily one that's feasible to where we could benefit from them wanting to repay that debt. If they were working somewhere to pay, for restitution or working to pay child support, that would be an exception. I'm just talking about people that very often do dumb things. They go to court, they get fined, and the judge struggles with what am I going to do by way of restitution. So this is or community service rather. So this is a good example of how we could utilize that.
Mr. Chairman, could I?
Yes, sir.
could I
Yes,
make-
sir, Mr. Chairman.
Could I make a comment, please?
You can.
I like your idea, moving forward. I think we need to definitely sit down and have a conversation with the sheriff, because this program will be a great benefit for this county. I'm going back 25 years ago when we worked them. I was director of building and grounds. We worked them. We had 5 inmates we picked up at the jail every day. We shoveled snow, we mowed grass, we painted, moved furniture, whatever we had to do. And then as time went on, probably 18 to 20 years ago, we were told that we couldn't work an inmate out the jail anymore. It had to be with an officer that carried a gun. So we lost that benefit then. They did have a couple officers that would bring them out and help clean the buildings and do some daily work. Only buddy that we could get after that would be a person that the judge sent directly to us. We could not pick them up out the jail. They had to be supervised by the jail personnel. So, I mean, if that still be the case, I think we need to have that conversation with our sheriff. We're looking at building a $60 million facility. We need to build a sale for these work release programs because they got where they said, we can't work them. We're afraid they're going to bring in contraband. They're going to bring in drugs. So we don't want to put that in the other sales with the other inmates, which is true. So moving forward, looking at this new facility, we need to sit down and say, yes, we need a sale for work release. They need to be out here picking up trash. They need to go to the landfill, pick up trash, go to Pet Center, clean up the Pet Center, go to compactor sites and clean those up. I mean, it'd be a great, great program. And I mean, it saves us thousands and millions. And I'm all for moving forward and looking into something that would work because it would be a great benefit. But maybe we need to get a meeting set up with the sheriff on that as far as working them out of jail. Now, if a judge sent somebody, we could work them. The key thing is when they send them, if you get that person, they say, well, we got 40 hours to work. They come in and work one day, and then the next 2 they don't show up. But if you can get them to participate, you can use them. But a lot of times, if you got 4, you might have 1 for the day. So, I mean, that's the other thing you have to deal with. But if it had all come together, trust me, I know you can save some money. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. The second leg to that would be, maintenance around a courthouse. And, I mean, it's
And if I could comment also, I know we worked them on the building and grounds, but we also could look at possibly being this is trash, that it would go under the solid waste. Right. It could be paid out of the enterprise fund.
Sure could.
I mean, that's another option. Can you do that?
You could if you had money, but I don't have enough money even this year to meet their budget that they got now.
Okay.
So, unless we get some more contracts.
I thought we,
That's really a viable option right now.
okay.
Yeah, I
We don't have any money left coming in from the trash and stuff?
That's not obligated.
Okay. I mean, that would be, if it could do that, that'd be the place to charge it to. Out of that, it's trash. You're talking about picking up mostly anyway.
Yeah.
So, but,
And your coordinator, you could probably get some money from grant, litter control grant.
right.
There's been some talk about that, using some of that litter money.
Good. Do we have any money in there now that we do away with that charter account? Is there any money in the litter control charter account now that we do away with that?
No, I mean, we used to get,
I mean, back in the day, we had Miss Andrews that looked after it, went to the schools and
Right,
stuff.
we have no coordinator. It hasn't been for a long
Right.
time. And I think a lot of the reason there's so much trash is there's no education anymore. There used to be programs that they had in schools. And when Miss Andrews died many years ago,
Yep.
that has not been picked back up. And that coordinator was paid by a litter control grant through the state of Virginia. And that money has just dwindled down. I think for 15, I've got less than $15,000 that will be budgeting for next
Okay.
year based on what we got this current year. What's happened in the last few years, we've used money to purchase recycling boxes, things that we could utilize for, purposes of rehabbing, using recycling and that kind of thing. That's part of
So that
what
kinda-
you could do for litter. So that's what we've done the last few years with that money, just so we could keep it going. There's a little bit of that money that does go to our towns. So, they do some type of litter, but it's very little. I mean, it's less than $5,000 a town. So, and they have to make proof that they've done something in order to qualify for that money. So that's a possibility. And it is a possibility you charge that to landfill, but like I said, this coming up budget, we've got to whittle it down to get our expenses to mirror our revenues, because our revenues right now are a little short. So yes, there's a balance in there, but you just approved at the last meeting, opening a new sale to the tune of about $1.2 million. At wallops like that, no, you really don't have money to obligate to something new. But you could if you got, more contracts or that kind of thing. So, but that's true, that would be a good use of landfill if you're picking up trash on the side of the road, kind of thing.
Yeah, believe me, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. None of this is really original to me, but for years now, I've heard all the reasons why we can't do it. And, what I'm looking for is suggestions on how we can do it, just like what the chairman brought up here. And this is different than what's happened in the past, is that it's not labor intensive for the sheriff or his staff. Pretty much all you got to do is let them come out at 7. Other localities do it. So my question would be, if a neighboring county can do it, neighboring counties on both sides, if they can do it and not have any issues, why can't we do it?
And so at the neighboring counties, just to be clear, they have 2 part-time people. Now, they're not the size we are, but they've got 2 part-time people that oversee this program, and they coordinate all that. Because to find somebody that's willing to do all that, number one, you're going to have to pay them a whole lot more than what you just spewed it off. And I don't know where that came from. But that's a lot to supervise the type of caliber of people that you have. Building and Grounds does not have the bandwidth for that. You would have to have somebody that's highly qualified to, number one, supervise people, number one, to coordinate with all these different. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm just saying that it's going to be a challenge, and this county is much larger than your surrounding counties.
I agree.
So it may take more than what you think. And I hate to shoot down anything. I want all the information so that we as staff, when we go back,
Can make a decision.
we have all the things you all are after, and then come back with what is that going to cost? Because then today you're saying, oh, let's get rid of all of our cleaning. Well, if you do all that and they're going to clean all the roads and highways in Pennsylvania County, I just don't see how 2 part-time people is going to do that. That's just Kim. I don't know. But we can certainly look into it.
We used to do all of it, but
Case
that was
closed.
back in the day.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
thank you. I'm kind of like Ms. Vanderhyde, and that's one of the reasons I suggested that, we have some type of study to basically give us all the facts and answer the questions that we have right now. I'm not saying it cannot be done, but if we're looking to pay for it with grants, if you're going to need a coordinator, you have to work out the wrinkles as far as the logistics with, the sheriff's department, jails, that sort of thing. I think we need some type of study to give us all the information. And then it may be more feasible, rather than have 2 part-time positions, you might need to hire a coordinator, as the lady that's deceased was doing, and have more of a shotgun approach with several different things to attack the litter problem, from, educating the kids in the school to coordinating, inmates to pick up trash, because I'm sure our sister communities, counties, they're being smaller. We have a large footprint to try to take care of, so we kind of need a coordinated effort there, in my opinion.
Mr. Tucker, when you mentioned a study, did you have something in mind?
Well, I don't mean we necessarily need to go out and hire a third
Okay.
party, but we probably need to form, like a litter task force, for lack of better terms or concept, wherein, finance director talks about where we get the money from, the sheriff talks about the logistics of how the jail's going to be involved, that sort of thing. We need maybe you that's spearheading this thing to kind of dig in a little bit and figure out how we're going to, we got to know the who, what, when, where, the basics.
Yes.
So that's a staff function. We can do that. And we can look at existing capacity. But what I want to make clear is, as Ms. Vanderhyde suggests, the person isn't more of a custodial job. It's a coordinator, because there's various components to solving the litter problem. There's VDOT, the inmates, the community service people, the volunteers, the Adopt a Highway. There's multiple layers. It would need to be a coordinator position. But and I think Ms. Kazee, when we started the litter committee, started looking into some options. We can definitely pull together, as we go into this budget, what that feasibility would be. The position in mind, I think, is a coordinator. It's not like a groundskeeper type position, correct?
The person that contacted me about this in '22 is a county resident that works in another locality. And his comment to me is that we can make this happen in Pennsylvania County if y'all are willing to accept it. So, yeah, I agree with Mr. Tucker. I'm sure I didn't answer all the questions, but we got to start somewhere, and that was my intent of bringing this up today.
Okay, thank you.
That's right. You don't initiate it, ain't gonna happen. You gotta get started.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So, any other comments, questions? Yes, sir, Ms. Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Just a few questions. In my previous life, I had to deal with this. And it's not fun because you're dependent on a lot of volunteers to do the litter pickup and grass cutting and things of that nature. One of the issues, or one of the nice things that we had that worked for us in the locality I was in was the court system was able to work with me particularly and let us know when they had people that had to do community service, and they pretty well vouched for them because it was people that had like non-payment of child support and things like that. You know, these folks are not going to run on something like that, but you had to have somebody in the staff, county staff, that was responsible. So they would contact us, me, or my assistant, and then they would say, we've got 2 people that need community service over the next 2 weeks, 40 hours worth, whatever it is. Do you have something for them? And then we would schedule them for that community service. And that service would be anything from cutting grass to washing cars for the sheriff's department, any of those things that are needed, working in buildings and grounds or out in the parks and rec. So we had the option then to do all the scheduling. Excuse me, that cost was nothing except for some of our staff time to make that coordination. We never had any problems with those folks. I think what you're proposing has merit, because anytime we're working with outside agencies, i.e. VDOT, we're at their mercy too, because they have schedules to run, and we always have an urgency, excuse me, urgency to get things done, but it doesn't happen on their timeline. And so we have to figure out how to fill in that gap. Also, when you're doing stuff like at the mega site where you need to cut grass and all, that's a contractor. We're going to have to go to somebody else and pay them pretty big bucks to bring out their equipment, do their cutting out there to make the sites look good. So that's an isolated instance, but it does have a cost with it. So I think there's time. I think the time is way past due, because I've got a picture right here, and I mean, we could put it up tonight, but I followed a truck in on Franklin Turnpike this past weekend that had 3 bags of garbage in the back of the truck. His tailgate's down, number one. One of those bags of garbage is laying on the tailgate, and all it takes is a small bump, and that garbage is in the road. And I can tell you, Franklin Turnpike is in a terrible shape right now, because 1 bag of garbage equals probably 3 hours of getting out there and policing it up once a car hits it, because it spreads it all up and down the road and the gutters and everything else. So I'll go back to Kim. I think Kim made the comment. It's educating the public and letting them know that this is it's unsatisfactory. It's unacceptable, because to cover down on all the roads we have in this county here is impossible to do, and it takes a team effort to make it done, get it done. Pleasant Gap Road is in bad shape. Franklin Turnpike is in bad shape. Dry Fork Road, where you're going out to the landfill, that's in bad shape. But I'm not saying that it's our folks, the people hauling the compactor site garbage, because they do take time to make sure that stuff is secured. But it's more of the folks that just are not paying attention. You're not securing your loads. You're carrying, stuff down the road in the back of your open truck there, and it's just blowing out, and you don't even know it. You're on the phone, you're driving, you're doing whatever, but it's blowing out into the ditches there, and or you end up with these bags of garbage that they're hauling to the compactor site at night, and a bag blows out, you don't see it, and then next thing you know, there's somebody hitting it, and by 7 o'clock in the morning, there's trash everywhere. So I'm a witness to that. I've seen it, and I think we have someone who's going to speak tonight to this instance, this specific item, if it's put on the agenda. So I thank you for that. I've had some experience with this, and I think it has merit, and I appreciate you bringing it to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Anyone else? I guess, do I need to entertain a motion to let staff do the study, look into this? How you want to handle that?
What do you think, Jay Vaden?
Yes, I would have a motion that recommends staff look into the feasibility of this and bring you back a recommendation.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. What about a second?
Second.
Ms. Tite, thank you, sir. Any other comments?
And this is just for staff, let's clarify, correct?
That's all it is.
Okay. We ain't spending 34,000, right?
And that is true.
Okay.
And I do want to reemphasize that point. If we could get this done at the cost of $31,200, I think it'd be money well spent, but I know how tight y'all can be. All right, Kayla, who we waiting on?
I don't have anything popping up.
All right, I'll get yours verbally. Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Any other matters from committee members? Ms. Dudley?
No,
Ms.
sir, I'm
Tite?
good.
All right. Any of my other colleagues, have anything you want to add?
No, sir. I'm good.
All right, I call for an adjournment. Thank you. Yeah, there you go.